Part 2 of the brake rebuild video today. We're reassembling. I do apologise in advance, it's not the best footage in the world. I was in a mad rush because I had to get it ready for the next day because I had work the next day. So that's the reasons for that. Anyway, I hope it helps and enjoy. Right, so we've got our brake disc. What we're going to do, it's already clean anyway, but what we're going to do is we're just going to give it a clean, an extra clean. Never be too clean with brake components. Alright, so we just spray the whole thing with brake cleaner. Give it a wipe off. Same on the back. It's a good idea just to, forgot to mention this earlier on, it's a good idea just to run your fingers along there, and if there's any pitting or notches, grooves cut into it where the bearings ride, shouldn't be an issue as long as they're linear, but obviously if it's a massive amount of wear then it needs replacing. But as long as there's no serious grooves or wear on those faces, should be alright. It just sits on like so, slides straight over. Obviously you've got to spin the hub itself, the disc itself, to line it up with the splines. I'm going to reuse this nut because obviously I'm going to have all this stripped down again and I don't want to dent the edge of my my new nut into the keyway when I could just use the old nut. Oh, don't forget your conical washer. Okay, so that goes on there like so, and then this goes on there. And we'll just do it up, nip it up for now, like that. Just turn the wheel so that it catches on the wheel free. Center punch. Right, so you just get your hammer, line it up with the notch, put your chisel there, there you go, that'll do us. Let's fit our caliper. Like that. I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on these. These are the bolts for holding the caliper on. There we go. I'm just going to spray this caliper with a bit more brake cleaner now that I've had my grubby hands all over it. Give it an extra wipe down. Can't be too clean. So I've just undone the ball joint nut just to get the clamps off for the brake lines. There's two ways you can go about this. You can use your ring spanners, which I'll have to use at least one ring spanner, or you can cut the pipe and get a socket on the bottom. And that's, from my experience, that's the best way of doing it. It just stops any rounding off or anything like that, any other issues. These pipes look like they could have lived again. Actually, no, that one's nicked there. But this back one looks like it could have lived again. But bearing in mind that the caliper was seized, there's a good chance that the hoses inside are furred up as well. So it's just better to replace them as a matter of course. Right, so I've got an 11mm pipe spanner and a 17mm spanner. Right, so the footage I actually got of this process was pretty lousy, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to re-record this now and just show you. So what you got to do is just cut these hoses here when you're removing them, and then just get a socket on the bottom side and a spanner on the top, and what you'll find is these nuts here will most likely be seized onto the pipe. So what you can do is once you pull this this retaining clip out, you can just nudge this down and this will spin with the socket when you're undoing it. So you don't have to rotate this, you just have to nudge it down though, so that the groove, the slot that this tab slides into is rolling around inside the hole in this plate here. So you can undo this without having to undo that, because what will happen if you try undoing that, it will shear the pipe. You can actually tell as well, these are two different brands, these hoses. I think this one's a Pirelli and this one's some spurious brand. And the Pirelli hose is in a lot better condition. These have only been on now about 2-3 weeks, something like that. And this spurious brand, the surface rust is already coming through on it, whereas the Pirelli pipe is doing all right. And then to fit it back on, again, don't turn the nut. What you can do is you can just put the hose up through it and then just spin the hose around onto the thread and then nip it up with the spanner on the bottom hose nut and the nut on the pipe itself, just to nip it up, and then put the clip in. Again, with these Pirelli hoses, the clip goes in the correct way around, whereas with these spurious, I can't remember what breed this is, but with these other hoses, what I've had to do is I've had to put the clip on upside down and fit it on there. Still does the same job. It's still, you know, I mean, I can't get it out very easily. It's fairly snugly on there, so I just thought I'd do that, re-record that and just show you by doing that, because the footage that I did get was horrific. Alright. Right, that's them fitted. Now to fit the caliper. Made a slight mistake. I fitted the disc before, I fitted the caliper carrier before cleaning it off. It's no biggie though, we can just clean it off with a wire brush, and then we'll give it another quick blast with some brake cleaner afterwards. And then we clean here as well, where our saddles sit. They're nice and clean. Right, we'll get our pads now. Genuine Lada. These don't have any, most modern cars nowadays, they have like a shim on them, stop squeaking. So what we've got to do with these, because these don't have them, just put a slight coating, very light coating of copper grease, just to stop that squeaking. That's all it takes. Not a lot, just a slight smidge. It's also a good idea to put a dollop there on your light coating. What you gotta remember is you just don't want them getting on the pad. You don't want that grease on the pad. Check that it's not tight, yeah, it's nice and loose. That's what we're after. Nice and loose again. Okay, and we put our caliper on like a glove. This is where our new pins come in and our springs. Okay, so we've got some new springs. They go into spring saddles. Come back to our pins in a minute. We don't put our lower springs in until we're ready to assemble, because I can guarantee you if you do, they'll fall out and go bouncing all over the shop and you'll be spending ages looking for them. Ask me how I know. Got some new R clips. Right. Get our spring saddles. Again, we'll give them a nice clean. Get any heavy dirt off them. Give them a spray with some brake cleaner. Feet to the bottom. And then we just want a light coating of grease where this shoe slides. Same on the caliper itself. It's literally just the tiniest amount. Don't forget your springs. I always do the bottom shoe first, because what happens is if you do the top, it pushes the caliper out And as usual, I've forgotten the copper grease on the pin. You want quite a bit of copper grease on the pin. Not excessive amounts, but something along those lines will be good enough. It's just a light tapper just to tap this pin in. You want to look down the gap, just make sure your holes are all lined up. Just like that. Then get your R clip, put your R clip on. Some people, including myself actually, prefer to use split pins on these, because the trouble with R clips is there is a chance that they might get pulled out if you ever go off-roading. Might get pulled out, and then, you know, it'd be horrible if this pin came out and you had no brakes all of a sudden. Chances of that happening are 1 in a million, and that's how they leave the factory with an R clip, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. But some people prefer to use split pins, including me. I know on the Red Bear, that'll be getting split pins, it won't be getting R clips. Like coating the copper grease. Right, so what we're going to do now, we're going to fit our hoses. We're going to fit the short one first, that's the top one. The reason I'm doing the top one first is just because it's going to make it nice to access afterwards. So you got a banjo, that's come off the old caliper copper washer. And then you put that through the banjo, then the copper washer. So you got 2 copper washers sandwiching the banjo. And then your banjo bolt goes through them. Right, it's a 14 to start it. Obviously be careful that you don't cross threads. All we're after at the moment is somewhere near. We're not going to nip them up tight yet. We're just going to get somewhere about right. Got a rag, wipe my hands. Okay, then it's the same for the bottom. Banjo, copper washer, sorry, banjo bolt, copper washer, banjo, copper washer, caliper. Get our clips. Do this nut here. Top to top is how it needs to be. Put our nut back on. Make sure that these rubber, you'll notice there's some rubber bushes almost on your where your hoses clamp. Make sure they're in the right locations. Right, so we've got them on. Now we just need to turn it both ways, make sure we've got plenty of clearance, which we have. Yep, I'm happy with that. So just nip these up now. They want to be, copper washers are a funny thing. You get used to how tight they want to be. You can just feel it just starting to crush. That's when you want to stop, really. Put our end cap on. Use the end of a hammer handle. Knock it in. Don't forget the dirt shield bolt, which is something I'm quite good at doing, forgetting that. Plenty of copper grease on that so it doesn't snap. There we go. Spot on. All right, it's getting a bit dark in here now, but there we go. That's the new brake hoses going around. New caliper, new discs, new pad. You can just see it poking through the new shaft. Hopefully that'll solve my problems that I'm having. So you just need to bleed it now. I'm not going to do a video on bleeding. I might do one in future. There's plenty of videos out there on how to bleed a car. And if I did a video on this, these can be quite difficult to bleed up on the front of a Niva. They don't particularly like to get all the air out of them. So this would end up being a massively long video on doing that. But basically, if you haven't got a bleeding kit, you get somebody in the driver's seat. And then you just crack these off and get them to pump the pedal, locking them and then undoing them, and then a bit of both. So anyway, my phone's going flat, so thanks for watching, appreciate it. And if you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe. Cheers for now.